Today on Managing Creative Studios, I'm joined by David Hillier and Jamie Holmes, co-founders of 1 to 100, a top-tier architectural visualisation studio celebrating 21 years in business. From architecture grads to studio leaders, they've grown a team known for stunning renders, strong partnerships, and a serious commitment to quality. We'll explore their creative journey and lessons from 2 decades in the game. And just a quick disclaimer, I do work for OTOH, so I know David and Jamie pretty well, and I know the business pretty well, but for the sake of the podcast, I'll be asking questions as if I weren't already in the loop. So, with that in mind, welcome to the podcast, David and Jamie.
Thank you, very nice to be here.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you met?
We met at architecture school. So we went to the University of Auckland. 1999 was our first year.
Yes.
And we spent 5 years studying architecture before we then both moved on to working as graduate architects at Ignite.
5 years, does that mean you did an honours degree or master's degree as well?
Well, no. Well, it is now. That's
Yeah.
what the degree is now, but it was just 2 degrees previous,
A
like a
Bachelor of Architectural Studies and then a Bachelor of Architecture.
And now I think they've changed it to
A Master's
Yeah,
of
the last
Architecture.
2 years is a master's.
Yeah.
So
So you met at uni and then you both went on to work at the same company, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I may have actually given you the introduction.
Yeah, Dave
Oh,
did.
nice.
I basically finished university and then was mucking around on my parents' farm for a couple of months, and then Dave gave me a call. I'd probably looked at a few companies, and then Dave called me up and said there was an opening at that company that we worked at, and then
It made it a lot more enjoyable in those first years, because it's really weird coming out and being a graduate and realising that you know so little. And
Yeah.
so to have a friend in there, it was great, you know, and we spent heaps of time together over those next couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how much people feel they learn at university and versus, you know, it's just the meeting people and the understanding the terminology and things like that. Did you feel like you learned a lot more on the job, in your first job?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be careful what I say, but I didn't think our particular degree was vocational at all.
Yeah.
I felt very useless when I came out. I didn't get a really good grounding in design, or you did when we did it, remembering that this is 20 odd years ago, but had none of this sort of technical skills or, you know, understand of the building code or anything like that that would have made us useful at that point. So, you know, you start work and we were doing a lot of photoshopping, trying to learn AutoCAD, and then, you know, probably photocopying and other such jobs.
junior jobs.
Junior jobs.
I mean, I totally agree with that. I think what you did get from the particular, you know, degree that we did was a deeper understanding of, you know, the ability to come up with a concept and then develop that concept.
Yep.
There was a lot of emphasis on that throughout the 5 years. It probably didn't need as much as there was, but yeah.
Yeah. And David, you did an interview with CG Architect last year, it might have been, where you were talking about how architects back in those days, their primary tool was for marketing is watercolour. So did you get taught watercolour in university, and was that something that you guys originally did? Do you have any badass watercolour skills that I don't know about?
We may have done some watercolour. We used heaps of charcoal at university.
We definitely did.
There was a big emphasis on drawing back
Yeah.
then, way more than I imagine there would be today.
Yeah.
It was considered to be like a core skill for an architect back then.
But not technical drawing, just...
I'm talking about, sketching.
Yeah.
I mean, technical drawing was even a thing there. Like, I remember having a drawing board at home. Whereas things were transitioning very quickly at that stage to CAD. And then they transitioned quite quickly from there to 3D modelling.
Yeah. And so where did the idea come from? Like, were you just sitting in the pub one day and you thought, let's just create a company?
I can give you the exact story.
Yeah.
So Ignite were at that point outsourcing their 3D rendering. And the 3D rendering that they were getting back was really bad. And because Jamie and I had played around with it at university, we're like, we could do at least this good, so why don't we start a business doing this?
Yeah.
But we had, the benefit of moonlighting, so we still had a steady income from our graduate architect roles. But we also had a bunch of friends in the industry, all in graduates in different architecture firms. So, there was a means for us to go out and get work reasonably quickly, and some things really fell well for us. We got people were willing to trust us, which for a brand new business in a brand new industry is interesting. But
and why together? Like, it would be very easy if it was one person's initial idea to just take it and run with it and sort of cut the other person out. So why did you decide that it was going to be the best option for you to work together?
I don't think we ever questioned it being a two-man band.
Yeah, I don't think I did as well. I mean, I can't imagine doing it by myself at that time, because it doesn't seem like much, but it was a pretty big undertaking. Yeah,
and I mean, even early days there was like a little bit of a division of skill sets and that sort of thing, but it meant you could undertake more because we were moonlighting. If something needed to be done, one of us could work an evening or a weekend.
Yeah.
So it let us achieve a lot more quickly.
Yeah. And the name OTOH, which was 1 to 100 and still is 1 to 100, that was your original name, or was it not?
Yes.
Yep.
So we were toying around for quite a while for what to name the company, and Jamie came up with the idea. I think we both really liked it because it was abstract, and all the other companies at the time were called like Arcad and Build Media and that sort of thing. Like, they were very sort of, generic / specific names, whereas we wanted something that was a bit more interesting. And then 1 to 100, which is an architectural scale, naturally tied us to the design industry. 1 to 100 was the scale that, I think most architects kind of started designing at. So there were just all these sort of ties which at the time made it, really, we liked it. But then from a 3D perspective, we work in one-to-one space. So, it's not without its problems. It's quite long. We ran with 1 to 100 speltout.com as a URL, which
for
confused people for many, many, many years.
It still confuses the couriers that turn up with 1 to 100 on your door. People just don't.
Anyway.
Don't get it.
We over the years, we've had a lot of people comment on the name though, and basically ask us what does it mean, which is quite odd because a lot of them are in the same industry.
Once though, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because it's just that little bit more interesting. I think people warm to that.
Yeah.
And it's, I think it's memorable, and then people have just come to associate our company, the work we do, our reputation with that name. So as all brands do, after a while they just sort of stand on their own.
Yeah. And so where did you actually start your business from? Where were you working in the initial days?
Like in terms of an office?
No, we had a weird first year. So someone we were working with at the time at Ignite had some office space that they no longer needed. So we took a sublease from them, but them found out 3 months into it, 4 months into it, that this guy actually had another business partner who still intended to use that space.
Right.
So we thought we had our own office, but we didn't actually. We had half an office. So anyway, we gapped it from there quite quickly and ended up in a hilarious building in bottom of Beach Road. And that was owned by NZTA, and they always planned to knock it down. It has been knocked down since. So the offices were unbelievably cheap, which was great for us at the time, but they were also unbelievably horrible.
Right.
So it was a great place to start a business because, we didn't need, the nice office at that point. We just needed a place to store all our gear and do our thing, and that was it.
Yeah, because back in those days, all the meetings were done at the architecture
Right.
offices, and
Yeah.
so we hardly ever had visitors to our office. We mostly went to the other studios, but yeah, they were pretty horrible.
And how many offices have you had over the length of your...
4.
5.
Oh, 4?
Takapuna, Beach Road, Adelaide, 4.
And as a duo, how do you manage to not step on each other's toes? Like, how do you divide up the responsibilities?
That's actually just, I think, come naturally over the years. I don't know, I was on the tools for quite a long time, probably best part of 10 years. But I always had aspirations to spend more of my time doing business development and managerial type stuff for the company. Jamie has always sort of had more artistic flair, more technical flair. So there's just been an easy division of roles, and that works quite well because you just don't tread on each other's toes that easy. I mean, I've learned or decided that, I just don't question Jamie's artistic or technical things, and that works really well with the staff.
Yeah.
I think everyone understands what he leads and what I might lead, and that's good.
Yeah. And in one of your offices, Jamie, you were showing me some photos of your old offices the other day, and Dave, you had a little company called Little Lot for a while.
I did,
that
yep.
You started in 2013. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I mean, we could have a whole podcast about this, but to keep it relatively short, one of my brother's friends came up with this, I thought, really cool idea, and it was called Donate Your Desktop, which was you could have a little app on your computer that would change the desktop background, and the desktop background that it was changing to was branded wallpapers. And the idea was essentially you get these branded wallpapers each day, and 75% of the cost of the advertising was then given to a charity of your choice. So It was sort of an easy way to donate to charity. My brother and I fell in love with the idea, so we formed a little company between Nelson, who came up with the idea, my brother, myself, and a friend of mine who was a coder. So we created our little startup, built an app, was originally Donate Your Desktop, but then we moved to mobile. And that we then had to rebrand, so we ended up with Little Lot, the idea that, a little bit of effort can create a lot of benefit.
Good name.
Yeah, and everything about it was, I don't know, quite fun, kind of, I don't know, not cute, but fun anyway. And it was extremely well received. We were winning like Google Awards and all sorts of things.
I've got Google Young Innovator Award, Talent Unleashed Award, and High Tech Award. Yeah,
so, I mean, for those first few years, it was very exciting. I took very much a backseat role in 1 to 100 because I was mainly working on a lot. And yeah, it was going well, but like many things in media, if you can't get the business case to work, then no matter how good the idea is, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And we spent far too much of our time innovating and building out the technical side of the platform and not enough time on sales.
Yeah.
So we were never able to, sell enough advertising, generate enough of a donation for people to stick on the platform. So you start to see churn and that sort of thing. All of our solutions to that were bring on more and more charities because we thought they'd have a bigger and bigger database.
Yeah.
But it was a chicken and egg scenario. They didn't want to pour too much time, resource or money into building our audience. And without them doing that, they would not really, we just weren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a shame because it was a very cool idea. I mean, similar ones were, launched after us, I suspect copied us in the States and ran up multi-million-dollar valuations and everything.
Yeah.
But eventually they all failed as well.
So back to 1 to 100. Jamie, what is the size and makeup of the 1 to 100 team now at the moment?
I think we're 12. Are we 12
Yep.
in the office?
Yeah.
Of which there are 9 like ArchViz specialists, and then there's is it? No, yeah, there's
Yep.
13. So there must be, because then there's us 3 and Lisa.
Yeah.
And Lisa is our creative director on the graphic design side.
Yeah.
We do know the answer to that question. It's just that one person's on a
Yeah.
6-month leave.
Yeah. One
yeah.
person is on
Yeah.
6 months leave, soon to come back. So how many of your team actually have an architectural background, would you say?
At the moment,
I don't think any of them are.
Oh,
Alina
it's-
is a trained
there's some
architect.
yeah, and Emily
Sort of
worked
studied
in
architecture,
architecture companies as well. Johnny did as well.
That was
So,
drafting.
yeah, so I mean, from a pure architectural background, there's maybe half of them,
Yeah.
3 or 4. Yeah.
And do you think that you need to study architecture to be a good ArchViz artist?
I mean, it helps, but
It's definitely not a you have to
Yeah.
have this. There
Yeah.
are some amazing artists, including in our company,
who didn't
don't have that
yeah.
background.
Yeah. And how many of your teams would you say? How many of your team would you say are international hires?
Almost all
Yeah.
now. Well, that's not fair. About half are actually sort of visa hires, but in terms of like Kiwis or born in New Zealand, it's a very low number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why do you think that is?
I mean, I would just go straight to the fact that our particular industry is quite niche and it's not really taught in New Zealand. There is no university that you can go to study architectural visualisation. There are lots of other different pathways. You can train as an architect and sort of self-teach yourself 3D rendering. You can go media design school and then, I guess, start to head in a more sort of architectural direction. But yeah, there is no easy pathway into what we do.
And I also think, if you're born here and, you generally, I guess you probably would, if you're going to start your own company, you would come from the architectural industry. You probably would start your own company rather than work for someone else.
Yeah.
So, the small handful of other companies that do what we do here, they're probably very similar to Dave and myself. And I would assume that, if they grew a bit bigger, that they also would have to hire outside of the country.
Yeah. When doing international hires, what's the process of that? Is that quite complicated?
I mean,
It used to be. It's not so much now.
yeah, I think we've got used to it, but it has been quite hard. We've had to get accredited with Immigration New Zealand. There's still quite a process to go through to make sure that you've properly considered New Zealand candidates before, letting someone from overseas apply and go through the visa process. But we must have done it for, I'd say, 4 or 5 staff members now. Maybe more, I don't know. But that's, it's onerous, but worth it to get the right person.
Yeah. So we've got a reasonably low staff turnover, I would say, in this organisation compared to some of the others that I've worked in. I'm actually organising one of the staff members' 10-year anniversary at the moment. So, some people have been there for a really long time. We're not hiring at the moment, I know, but we do get a lot of CVs and portfolios in. So what are you looking for when you're hiring? What are you looking for when you're going through the CVs and portfolios? What makes a good portfolio?
I mean, the ironic thing is, because most of the CVs arrive on my email account first, I go straight to the portfolio. I don't even look at the CV to begin with, which I think indicates the fact that we need to see their eye first. We need to see that there is an artist there. And then obviously experience and technical skill is hugely important, and we wouldn't move forward on interviews and all the rest of it if they didn't have the right background and other circumstances, training. But yeah, the first thing that we care about is your eye. You know, do you have it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few other minor things like, and we don't really see a lot of it in people's portfolios, but like versatility, like, you know, a lot of portfolios we get are quite small,
Tiny,
Yeah.
like 10
Right.
images.
Yeah.
whereas, you know, in 20 years we've literally done like thousands of images, you know.
10,
We've done
I reckon it could be
everything and
10,000
anything.
images now.
So, you know, it's interesting when people say they've had years of experience and that's all they've got to show for it. I know there's sensitivities around some
What you
projects,
can
but
show,
but it is, you know, just seeing some different types of work is always good as well. But
Yeah.
I mean, like Dave said, the main thing is that people can, you know, have some sort of
They've got the skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And in terms of company culture, what does a good office culture mean to you guys?
I mean, you've actually done an amazing amount for our office culture. I think it was sorely lacking for a while there. It's really easy to sort of, I guess, overlook culture. You know, in a small business, you know, you're worried about cash flow and all those things,
Yeah.
you know, running a small business. It's really easy to forget that for everyone working in it, ourselves included, you know, this is somewhere you spend most of your life, and it needs to be a pleasant place to be, and that it has huge benefits in terms of even the work that's coming out of the studio when people are happy and they feel valued, and there's upskilling and, you know, nice downtime and ways to blow off steam and ways to connect with your team.
Yeah.
It's really important, and we're
Yeah.
glad to see what you've done for us.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially in our office because we do have quite a lot of different personalities.
Yeah.
So, yeah, bringing everyone together.
Yeah, the team, I mean, I haven't worked at a company where the team has gotten on as well as the team does currently. It's a really good bunch of people at the moment. Yeah, we're pretty lucky.
I mean, we happen because maybe it's because it's architectural visualization, but I feel like all the personalities are very much of a type. So everyone does get on really well.
More
together.
so now than ever, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So with all your expertise and all your background, have you ever sort of thought about branching the business out into different areas of the architecture industry?
We have branched into so many different industries, or at least we've tried so many different things. Like if we were to go right back to the beginning, about 2 or 3 years into it, we decided that we wanted to do 3D effects as well as architectural visualization. So we sort of created a separate brand to do that, but didn't have any of the connections in the industry to pick up that work. So we got a little bit of it, but not much. We tried doing photogrammetry, which is where you set up a huge rig of very expensive cameras, and then you take a sort of a single shot with 50 cameras at once, and it creates a model. And we were using this to create realistic-looking 3D models of real people.
Yeah, people in 3D are hard, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, much less so these days, but back
They
when
are,
we were
yeah.
looking at this, because we're talking 10 years ago, it was, our people looked terrible at the time because they were all little robots. And when photogrammetry came onto the scene, it seemed like this great new opportunity for us. So, you know, we leapt on that. We also created Viz Tender, which was a sort of a platform where people could come and tender 3D visualization jobs. And we tried to sign up all the 3D companies in the country.
Oh, yeah?
But there was just so much pushback. No one believed that we wouldn't be looking at the request for proposals in the background. And they thought we were just going to use it to steal work from them. So.
And they also thought that we would bring international players into the mix, which would...
more competition.
more competition. So, I mean, it's all understandable.
Yep. And then we created a directory for off-plan purchasing. So that was called offplan.kiwi, and you could either list apartment buildings or townhouse developments on there for a fee, like Trade Me, but Trade Me Property, but specifically for off-plan developments, which Trade Me is not necessarily designed for. Even, about 10 years ago, we expanded the business to cover strategy, branding, and sort of marketing collateral.
Yeah.
That one stuck. We still offer those services. But yeah, I don't know about you, Jamie, but I feel like 21 years of learning, and it's sort of that sticking to your core business is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
If it's the thing where you have an edge and you do it extremely well, and you are making money from it, you have a genuine business, you're sometimes better just trying to stay ahead in that core business rather than looking for other fields.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Well, more than any, like if I were to dissect all of those different businesses that we went into, as much as we kind of got a working product out of all of them and took them to market, but we never had the time to fully devote to building those businesses. So again, it was a lot of focus on product and not enough focus on sales. So they didn't grow, the money wasn't coming in, and when the money's not coming in, it's hard to keep working on something compared to, the existing 1 to 100 business, which needs your attention but is making money and growing and all those sorts of things. So I think if you're going to diversify, you have to really commit to it.
Yeah.
Like maybe we should have hired someone whose full-time job was to build that. But again, it's hard when you're small and funding it all out of your own pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, and so this is actually a question from one of our team members. I asked them if they had anything they wanted to ask. And so because you've been in the industry for a really long time, how do you actually keep the enthusiasm up and the passion alive for what you do? And especially when those times where it can be, frustrating or creatively draining.
Did that person think that we're still passionate?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's the point. Yeah, because you guys are there every day, putting in the effort, working hard, and keeping the team enthusiastic as well. But it has been a long time, so
I think both of us ultimately enjoy what we do. We like creating images. We like the architecture. I think we like the challenge even of just making something look as good as it can with the tools that we have available. And then there's also just a sense of, we've committed to this business. That's where our income, our success, everything comes from. That you've just got to keep going. And I think that's part of being a business owner. You can't be flippant and go, I'm not feeling it today. You just have to turn up every day and be like, yep, I'm going to get into this. I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah. I grew up with workaholic parents who worked 7 days a week. And, for all of their faults, I guess they gave me they gave me a strong work ethic. And I see that a lot in you guys. You are always working. Like Dave, when you're on holiday, you're still sending me emails, you're still calling clients. And Jamie, even when you take sick days, you're still, messaging on Rike and, working into the night often, getting renders done. So where do you think that work ethic comes from?
Yeah, I don't know if that's just a personality trait. For me, I haven't lost any passion in like architecture design or interior design or anything like that, even through, 20 odd years of doing this. So I still love doing what I do today as much as I did last time. Yeah, sure, there's ups and downs, but, it hasn't lessened anymore. If anything, I'm more passionate now than I was when I started.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. I think I feel a responsibility to Jamie, to the company, to the team, to be available, to give it my all and that sort of thing. I'm a horrible micromanager as well, so it's just my nature to stay in the thick of things.
Yeah, well, I do regular one-on-ones with the team, as you know, and something that's come up a couple of times is, how is Jamie so fast? So we have a project management system, Reich, in which we can sort of measure people's productivity. And Jamie, you're twice as fast as our next fastest render artist. So what is your secret to being so speedy, but not having it be detrimental to the quality of the work? Because some of your work is the best work we put out there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It will be a little bit of experience. Maybe because I'm the boss, I guess. I make decisions faster, so I don't really second guess everything. Like, I can see in the staff, if there's a decision to be made, they sort of, they can sometimes send themselves down the wrong path.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know, I guess... I mean,
it's
a tough
the same
one.
amount of research and R&D that other people do.
I think I just look at things differently. Like, it's, from being in office, we do tips and tricks.
Yeah.
When we go over, ways of doing things that sometimes should be more efficient.
Yeah.
And it's hard to see that applied sometimes. I do things the same way every time. It's not like I'm doing something different, and I don't think the staff are doing anything different. But I think it boils down to decision making, and it's just something I have an edge.
Just finding it easier,
because
you've got that experience.
It's like, I think you have an excellent holistic understanding of what you're trying to achieve. Like, and you can even balance like the needs of the business with the needs of the client, with your own artistic aesthetics and all the rest of it. Whereas, it's more difficult when you're a staff member. You don't get to sort of control that balance as much.
Yes,
they feel that sort of, well, obviously I've got to do whatever the directors or the business need. I've got to fulfil the client's wishes. Where do my aesthetic wants and needs fit in there? Whereas Jamie doesn't have to question that, so maybe that's a help.
Yeah.
I think it definitely helps. That's just an unfortunate scenario that they can't move on from that. But I mean, there are lots of little things, and I think some of it, is from having a proper architectural background as well. Again, that's part of the decision-making process. I can quickly know what a detail is and do it. But that's...
So you're finding the rendering part of the business quite easy, but there's a lot of difficult parts of running a creative studio. What would you say is the most difficult part of running a studio?
From my perspective, it's cash flow. Wasn't necessarily such a problem. We had this amazing boom from probably like 2020 through to, or maybe slightly even earlier
19,
than that. Through to 2022. But, the property market turned, and our business is so closely aligned with the property market. And for the last few years, and it's only really starting to improve now, but, it really felt like we were treading water, and cash flow was 100% the biggest issue that we've faced. And even when you're busy, there's just this weird situation where, as with all business, you've got all these costs which are going out on a weekly basis, salaries and rent and that sort of thing. But when clients actually pay, can be very wavy, and then when you throw big lump sum taxes in there as well, it really makes it difficult to manage the money.
Yeah, I bet. I just want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsor for this episode, 5 Digital. I have had the pleasure of working with 5 Digital closely for over 8 years now, and they are my go-to for all digital print jobs. They offer some really impressive embellishment options like digital foiling, metallic inks, and even fluoro colours, which always take the project right to that next level. And what's really stuck with me, though, is how supportive they've been from the beginning. When I was a young studio coordinator, still figuring out the print world, they took the time to explain the processes and the terminology so that I could feel confident running projects. And that kind of generosity and care made such a difference. They're consistently delivering high quality work, and they've even won gold at the Pride and Print Awards 5 years in a row, so you know you're in good hands. If you need any printing done, check them out at 5digital.co.nz. I will pop the link in the show notes for you. A huge thanks to the team at 5Digital for supporting this episode. What's your typical workflow? Talk me through the project from briefing phase to project delivery.
Normally sales come in through me, and then, we will get in the resources. You get introduced to the project. Mm-hmm. We try and do a sort of detailed briefing with whichever team members we've decided are going to work on that project. Mm-hmm. And we're usually trying to put the right projects with the right staff members. I really like to give the team a bit of background on the project so that when they do have to make decisions, they're making them, from a slightly educated position.
Yeah.
And once that is done, they bring in the model. I don't know how detailed to get here, but we usually set up cameras, and those cameras get issued to the client. Mm-hmm. Once they've approved those cameras, we will push the job through to a sort of about 90% complete draft. We have in the past tried showing clients work in progress, and it's not gone well. They panic for no good reason. Even when we're volunteering the fact the images aren't finished, but when they don't see the same quality that they've seen on our website, it goes disgusted. So we've learnt just to sort of back ourselves, make the image as good as we can up front, and then get it in front of the client and the designers. At that point, we start getting feedback, normally around accuracy, so architectural correctness based on what the project actually is specified. But you also start getting aesthetic tastes in there. I don't like a particular armchair, or the lighting feels wrong, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And then we go through, ideally, 2 rounds of that and no more, but often more than that, for reasons that are somewhat out of our control.
Yeah. And tell me how you sort of maintain consistency when multiple people might be working on the same job.
I think we've got a house style, which I would, briefly describe as being sort of a natural photographic style. So at least with that understanding, and if you were to look at our sort of overall portfolio, I think the staff understand what the expectation is in terms of what their images should look like. I mean, it's not unusual for their own ways of doing things and own aesthetic sensibilities to kind of creep in, but yeah.
And with regard to time pressures and tight margins, how do you balance budget versus quality?
We're bad at this.
It's probably one of the worst things.
But at the same, we regularly go over budget, which is not something I'm necessarily promoting. But bottom line is, I think after 21 years of business, we're still here because of that enduring focus on quality. We won't let something go out of the office until we're happy with it, and it means your clients are always happy in the end. We let all sorts of variations creep through that we probably shouldn't. Yeah. But again, the client leaves happy. They usually almost always come back to us. Yeah. There are some things that are kind of more important necessarily than protecting your margin. Obviously, you can't have that on every single project, or else the company would make no profit. But in what is a fairly, like you said at the start, commoditized industry now, we trade on our quality and our reputation. That is our number one thing. So as soon as that slips, we are probably in trouble. Yeah.
And how much overtime would you say has worked in the studio, if any?
I feel very little. And I think both of us are quite kind of happy with that. But it's overseas, our understanding is lots of studios will have people working 60, 70-hour weeks.
I've heard that.
And, I mean, there's no work-life balance there. I I think it would also, we would feel guilty if our staff were doing that. We'd probably feel more obligated to do a little bit of that ourselves.
Yeah.
And I don't think we necessarily want to with young families and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So, I think it's really good. We still get through all of our projects. And I think all of the staff know that if there's a deadline and they needed to stay late, that they would and could.
Yeah. So my last guest on the podcast, she was a traditional 2D animator, and she said that one of the reasons she didn't go into 3D was that a lot of people were telling her, if you go into 3D, you'll only be working on one little part of the project for, 3 years of a film or something. And in a lot of larger studios, that is the case. You'll work on one part of the project. In every project, you'll be doing the same thing all day, every day. Tell me why at OTOH that's not the case.
I guess, that's probably true, and especially in the film industry. I guess in our company, generally everyone works on an image start to finish. So, they deal with camera setup sometimes, and then lighting, texturing, any modelling that needs to be done. So you're pretty much a 3D generalist.
Yeah.
So you get to work on the image from start to finish. I think that's why a lot of people around the world are drawn to ArchViz.
Yeah.
Because for that very reason, there are some studios around the world that do you only do the modelling, and someone does the lighting, and
You get more creative ownership of it's more interesting.
Yeah, a lot more satisfaction out of it.
Yeah, and I can see why the person you had on here last would hear things like that, and I think that's why people are drawn to ArchViz.
Yeah.
And we have people in our studio who they were drawn to ArchViz for that very reason, because they get more creative control. Well, not creative control, but creative license anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have a lot of creative license on some projects more than others. Do you feel like there is a point where there's too much creative license? Like, would you prefer almost that clients were giving more detail, or is it better or more enjoyable maybe to have more creative license? Perhaps it depends on the person.
Yeah, I think that depends on the person. Obviously in our studio there are some people who really like to have all the information.
Yeah.
And I think they enjoy the process more when they've got that. Me personally, it's a bit of a mixed bag for me. It depends on the project.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to have full creative control over the process, but I tend to fall on I'd rather have all the information.
Yeah.
The problem is we often are told they want us to make it up at the beginning, but then they start picking apart and critiquing our design.
Then they've
afterwards.
already designed it and then send us to the dime. We have to change it.
Yeah, and then you've done the image
it
twice.
It feels like a hospital pass sometimes.
Yeah.
But also it is what it is, and I think it's, again, one of those points of difference, with our architectural backgrounds, with the creativity we have in our office. We can do this for our clients, and I'm sure there's a lot of 3D studios out there that just couldn't, or certainly not to the sort of calibre that we do it.
Yeah. So what are some of the most challenging projects that come through the door?
The most challenging project we kind of have at the moment is, it's a huge project out of the Middle East, and there's just an absolute different expectation over there of the primary purpose of renders. Our understanding, or the way renders are sort of sourced and used in New Zealand, is that they're a marketing tool first and foremost. Lots of architects use them to sort of show off a design, but whenever we get involved, it's almost always for marketing. In the Middle East, they're actually used, it would seem, for a completely different purpose. They're used to sort of trial and test the design.
Yeah.
And subsequently, on some of the images we're working on, we would be on our 12th, possibly more, iteration of the image.
Yep.
And normally we're at max 3, and they're all very close together. Your draft 1 gets a few tweaks, and then your draft 2 gets even fewer. This is almost 12 completely different designs. And whilst the remuneration's okay, I don't know, just that it's taxing for the staff, it's taxing for us because nothing's ever complete. You have no confidence that what you're doing is going to be right. It's weird. I'm finding it very challenging.
Yeah, there's daily deadlines as well, which is not something that we're very used to, I think.
Yeah.
And people people just generally like to know when something's going to end.
Yeah.
And there is no end
There's
to
no
these
end.
jobs.
Yeah. And even resources, like, as we were talking about before, we're good at and really like getting good resources and being accurate to those resources. Whereas these jobs are kind of just done by markup, and we never really have any confidence in what we're doing, and that just undermines everything. I'm always feeling a little bit uncertain.
Yeah.
And I struggle with it.
And then on the flip side, what are some of the best or, creatively fulfilling jobs that come through the door?
I think any time we do an animation, while it's a hard slog, and usually the deadline's pretty tight, but they're always very fulfilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like the marketing projects. So when we've been brought on to do a full set of images for a particular development, and it's really our job to sort of visually describe across a set of, 12 to 15 images, the soul of this project.
Yeah.
And it's being able to sort of build into those images, the right mood, make sure they're targeting the right audience, that everything fits, that they're telling a story, even building the brand into them.
Yeah.
I find that really cool.
Yeah, I know the staff really appreciate being able to work on a full set that just looks really great and really beautiful together.
Even when, when the project launches, that's fun, and you feel like you've actually sort of contributed to that little slice of Auckland or wherever the project is.
Yeah. So you produce a high volume of work in the studio. So talk to me a little bit about how the rendering specifically works at 1 to 100.
Like from a technical point of view, like computers and.
Yep.
So I mean, I'll start with the software. So we use like a pretty well known piece of software for 3D, which is called 3D Studio Max. It's an Autodesk product that's probably been around. Well, it's been around since we were at university, so 30 odd years. But it's, I think across the world that's what 90% of ArchViz studios use. And then we use a render engine, which is called Corona. And so basically what happens is you build a 3D model, you put in different assets like trees and whatnot, and then the render engine, and then you put materials on there, so shaders, like timber, concrete, whatever you need, glass. And then Corona then renders that image inside 3D Studio Max and then just generates an image, I guess. Like different passes, so you got like reflection pass, diffuse, wires, and then you take that into Photoshop and do any post-production work. But it's very computer heavy, so you need very fast, powerful computers.
Yeah, and you've got a render farm?
Yes, well, the tiny render farm.
Yeah.
Our render farm is getting
exist now.
Yeah, it's getting smaller and smaller.
But nor does it need to exist anymore.
Yeah.
Its primary function was animations, and those are sort of almost dwindling. I don't necessarily see a big future for them.
I think where computers have gone as well, like a workstation is quite powerful these days. So
it doubles as our render farm.
Yeah, it doubles as the render farm.
So you have no need to sort of outsource the rendering to a cloud-based service?
We haven't yet. I mean,
it's also phenomenally expensive.
Yeah.
Like thousands and thousands of dollars for one of our sort of typical animations. And if there's one minor little thing that's wrong, which can happen, you would need to spend a whole nother X number of $1,000 to re-render it.
Yeah.
it must make sense for some of those bigger companies that are working on super tight deadlines, but it's never
because it
made
must
sense
be
for us.
wicked fast, right, for them to be able to charge that much.
Amazingly fast.
I
believe
mean, you can
so, yeah.
spin up hundreds of servers at AWS, so you could render something in hours
Yeah.
instead of weeks for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just not worth losing, because that could often be the whole margin on a project.
Yeah, and with AI coming into every area of the creative industry, do you see it as a smart efficiency or a compromise on craftsmanship?
Very much a smart efficiency
Yeah.
at the moment, anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, my opinion on that will naturally change as the technology changes.
Yeah, yeah,
But at the moment, we're really using it for polishing our work. It's not compromising the craft and all of you have to put all the effort up front. You still have to get an image looking amazing in 3D before using the AI, and the AI is used to just sort of take it up that extra 5% or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for those people who might be using it a little bit more heavily, like let's say, architects might be using it for concept renders or something. What are your thoughts on IP in that situation? Like, can they still call it theirs if they've made it in AI?
I mean, if they're charging money for it, yes.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't get too wound up with the whole
Yeah,
artistic
I mean,
integrity thing. And that's probably the business owner in me making that call. But, if the client needs something and you're able to produce it in an efficient way and it satisfies those client needs, great, you've got a business.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think people should labour the whole craft thing just because.
Yeah.
The technology in the world is changing so quickly. Personally, I think you need to get on board and get on board fast.
Yeah.
Hang around, because this is the beautiful, pure way of doing something. Just seems like you're going to get left in the dust.
Yeah. So, I mean, you were a judge for the CG Awards last year, weren't you?
I was.
Yep. And so what is your opinion on AI being used in those submissions? Because it's actually allowed. I think they just have some rules. They've talked about disclosure. You have to disclose which parts are AI, and they talk about using it ethically and things like that. But isn't that a little bit like, not drug testing the Olympians and just being like, they tell us if they were doing it,
It's a pretty good analogy, but there's sort of two different types of AI. I think if it's the way we're using AI and it's like a final polish and all it's doing is adding extra detail and texture to your image, then, as long as you're admitting to that. But I still think it's okay, because I still think that 95% of the work's been done by you in 3D.
Maybe.
I think so.
Being very trusting.
Yep. But then if something's actually, text to image AI, so you've just used prompts, or, there are ways you can just throw like a white clay image into something and have it render it and add detail. That you probably shouldn't be submitting that into a 3D awards. Where is the 3D rendering in that? So
we're yet to see an excellent example of that, though. I mean, there are good examples, but I think the amount of work that you have to put in to get an AI image to the quality that they're looking for in those sort of competitions is you're probably putting the same amount of effort if you just did the whole thing in 3D, unless it was in a very complex scene.
But also anyone who's as immersed in 3D and architecture, and to a slightly lesser degree AI, as we are, like, I can see it in a flash when something's fully AI generated, because there are just so many things in it that don't actually work architecturally. Things that are missing, things that shouldn't be there, perspective issues,
gravity issues,
horizons in the wrong place, lights coming through weird holes, that sort of thing. So I mean, I would expect most of the judges would have that same skill and be able to see through it pretty easily. So, but I mean, every year generative AI gets way, way better. So there will come a time when it's impossible to distinguish, and maybe you just can't have 3D awards then unless you trust people, to be honest.
Yeah. So when I started at the company, you were using Unreal for some projects. So could you tell me a little bit about what Unreal is, for those who might not know, what the difference is between 3ds Max, which is what we use, and why we never sort of went down that path?
Yeah. So Unreal, as it's used in architectural visualization, essentially creates real-time experiences. So it's like a game, because it is fundamentally a game engine. A purchaser can actually navigate their way through an apartment the way you would walk through a gaming level and experience it, usually on a touch screen. There's nowhere to hide. It's such an amazingly real way to experience an off-plan unit that doesn't exist yet. What we do is pretty different to that. So we're working on still images and then 3D animations, but both of those outputs are sort of fixed. You know, a still image is a still image. The animations are like a movie you would go see. It's a curated but moving, experience. We moved primarily into real time because our main competitor at the time had put all their resources into that, and we were starting to lose a lot of work to that company because it was quite a sought after product. We struggled though to ever sell that product, or I guess develop that product and get that product working to a point where we could sell it and make money. We had developed that product, we were able to sell it, but we were taking a huge hit on it.
Yeah.
And because we were relying solely on one staff member and then on another one who had some skills there, it wasn't even being transferred to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
So
it would have taken quite a lot to retrain all of the staff.
I mean, we needed them to want to do that as well.
You can't learn something if you're not interested.
Yeah, exactly. and I don't think there was a huge interest in it. People.
I think there was also the problem that, like, Jamie and I both fundamentally understand still renders, animations, so we can kind of lead from the front. With that product, we just couldn't. Jamie maybe a little bit, but me not at all. It was a black box to me. So I understood the product, I could use the product, but how we were creating it in-house, I could offer no advice. So it was really hard from a business perspective to run that. And I don't think we ever had the confidence that if we stuck at it, it was eventually going to become a high margin product for us to give our clients.
Yeah.
So it's we just went back to our core business. I mean, the staff member who was offering it left of their own accord, but that probably suited where we were at, in terms of headspace anyway.
Yeah. So you have quite a few different clients, and all of the different types of people that come and brief us, they kind of want different things. So you've got briefs that come in from property developers, you've got briefs that come in from architects, interior designers, and also from brand agencies as well. So can you tell me a little bit about what the differences are between what those different types of people are looking for in an end result in the render? Because they are quite different sometimes.
Yeah, they're very different.
I think the problem is that ultimately it's almost always going to be the developer paying. But if it's not the developer engaging you, so let's say it's one of the other designers or some other stakeholder, you get caught in this weird situation where ultimately it's going to have to go to the developer and the developer's going to be happy, but they're not the one briefing you, they're not the one controlling the process. And so you end up in that situation where you've got someone with different interests pushing you forward, but ultimately they're going to give it to the client, the main client, and say, what do you think of this? And then you can get a whole new sort of round of feedback or, sense of direction
Yeah.
from it. I think we like to always have a main line to the client and feel like we're servicing or satisfying the person who's going to pay the bill in the end.
And what are the differences that they're wanting to see? Like, what is an architect looking for in a render versus what is a brand agency looking for in a render, do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, architects generally, they want to see, like, a lot more than what you actually need to see because they're trying to get across, like, many things that
explain the design.
Showing off
to
the
explain
building,
the design, and generally, we feel it's always too much.
Yeah.
The images get compromised, don't they? Because it's sort of, their agenda is not just the best possible render, it's making their building talk or speak a certain way.
Yeah.
Well, especially if they've got a concept, that they're trying to convey in the image. And a lot of time for a property development, you don't need to have that in every image. It just needs, but
they also they sort of second guess, I think, what the purchaser is going to think. They start thinking, we've got to turn all the lights on in the building, so we wouldn't want people to think it's a dark building.
Yeah.
Even though, that can just wreck a render because it is not correct exposure, or, it doesn't make sense with the time of day or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Brand agencies obviously get quite wound up with seeing the brand they've created represented well in those images, and making sure that the images fulfill what they're trying to achieve with the collateral. And that can be as sort of boring as making sure if you're doing a double page spread that the image works on a double page spread. You don't have all the main content in the spine. But there are lots of other things. Especially with furnishing a particular interior, they can get very wound up with trying to achieve a specific look. So working with brand agencies will often end up with endless mood boards of how they want something to look, but we still have to then interpret that. And we always put our best foot forward. We always think we've achieved what they're looking for, but they will often just want to their say too. It's natural.
They are probably the most difficult stakeholder to please, I'd say, like a creative agency. Yeah, architects.
Not that we don't value their
all work is welcome.
But and then clients, just the general developer is probably the easiest person to please because at the end of the day they just want a good image. There's the odd product company as well, which is quite different. We're dealing with a marketing person, and generally they don't have a background in what we do, so sometimes that could be quite a difficult process, if they don't have the necessary design skill, but they're trusting us. And then a lot of the other relationships that sort of, where it can get quite difficult is the trust between the developer and the architect. There are some developers who will trust the architect, and so they basically will accept anything that the architect goes, and then you sometimes fall into that situation where it's not actually the right way to move forward.
But we push back all the time.
We're
very strong aesthetic sensibilities. But at least we would argue our case at any stretch.
And what to you makes a good render?
I guess it's just got to, you've got to look at it and just go, wow. And I know that's a super vague answer, but there are so many renders you look at and you're just like, So you've got to kind of combine some sort of artistic flair in terms of the lighting, the grading, just the actual choice of camera and composition and that sort of thing, with getting all the detailing and the accuracy there as well, so that it feels real. Because you could do something that looked and felt amazing, but if it's not true to that project, it's of no value really to the client or to anyone else. So,
you've probably heard me say it many times in the studio, but for me, what makes a good render is it believable? When you look at it, can you believe that that could be a reality.
Yeah, and that's where your photo reference comes in, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big part, like, you know, but technically, yes, but also in the storytelling, you know, like we do a lot of like retirement villages and like, you know, commercial spaces or public spaces, you know, where the people are placed, you know, what they're doing, what activities they're doing, you know, is it all believable? And, you know, sometimes it may not be fully photo real, but just the believability of it is enough for it to be successful.
Important. And so for a 3D artist, if they want to be a really good 3D artist, what's the one thing they need to do really well?
I think they need to, for me, they need to like look at what's happening in the real world, you know, look at like how, in terms of architecture, how buildings go together, you know, what the light is doing, and just be aware of their surroundings.
Yeah.
I also think looking at reference is super important. Like, I know Jamie does, I do. I spend heaps of time in the evening, maybe not heaps of time, but every night looking on Instagram at what all the best companies around the world are doing. Like, you just sort of drink in where rendering is going, what the flavours are, what's being done out there, how people are approaching lighting, cameras and that sort of thing. And when you're attuned to all of that, your work gets better because you're bringing in the best from around the world.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a basic way to upskill.
Yeah, it's like
visually.
a little bit of research and analysis. Like
I mean, I find it enjoyable as well. I'm not sure everyone else would, but yeah.
Yeah. And you're currently expanding into the US at the moment and other countries as well. Do you have to change your creative approach depending on where you're sort of working or targeting?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
I've been shocked at how different the expectations are working in the US.
I mean, yeah, when
Like
you
that,
compare
you know,
it to New Zealand and Australia, yes, there's quite a different...
And that's both in terms of like how they like their renders, like they like these saturated blue skies and very wide angle cameras and, you know, cameras floating up in the air, all the things that we, you know, haven't been doing for more than 10 years.
that we try hard not to do.
And then even from an architecture perspective, the architecture feels, it's sort of this sort of weird mishmash of like, it's got a heritage look about it, but in sort of modern materials. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a gross generalisation, but that has been our experience of things. But we're also super grateful to be working in the US. We think you know, being part of such a massive booming market is great. It's good not to be so sort of closely aligned to the New Zealand property market, which we know is really wavy. So yeah, we love the work, but I've just been surprised at how different things are over there.
And there's little things like, you know, where especially because we've done a lot of work in Florida, the light is just different. You know, its proximity to the equator. It's just different from New Zealand. So, you know, there's all there's little technical things as well.
Yeah. And with renders often viewed as a commodity, how do you educate clients on the value that a high quality render brings to a project?
So, I mean, I almost got to the point where I was running hypothetical figures for them. So I would get our cost and break it down by the number of units that they were developing. And it would often only be like, let's say, $1 or $2 per unit. And then I would say, look, I genuinely believe that our renders can get you at least 10 grand, maybe more, in terms of additional sale price, because they are so good, they're so accurate, so convincing, you know, they resonate with your audience. And that's usually quite well received because, you know, they're then looking at the value, not just the commodity cost, because, I mean, we're absolutely at the upper end of what's charged in New Zealand. So, you know, we have to convince client of value, or else, you know, why else would you go for the more expensive choice?
Yeah. So, did you ever believe that your business, that you'd be in business for this long? And was it sort of the goal when you started out? Or was it just, you know, you thought you'd do it for 5 years? And
I just don't know if a 23-year-old, because I think that's how old we were, I mean, we're ambitious. Like we knew we wanted a bit, to be running our own business, and we wanted it to be successful. But we've never been those, or the pair that sat down and put like goals down on paper and that sort of thing. I mean, it would be easier to say that we probably should have, but yeah, no. I think for a long while, it was a job, and we always believed that if we just kept doing good work, that eventually the money would come.
Yeah. And what do you think you'd be doing if you weren't doing ArchViz at the moment, or if the company didn't exist? Do you think you'd still be in architecture?
I'd probably be in architecture, yeah. I mean, there's many other things that I would have liked to have done over the time, but I don't feel disappointed that I didn't do them. But yeah, I mean, I had no idea how long this business was going to go for. It's just one of those things. But yeah, I'd probably still be in architecture just because I have, it's just something that I've done and know.
And what over the 21 years are the defining inflection points in the growth and evolution of 1 to 100?
I mean, when we decided to tack on marketing to our services, I think was a big inflection point. Not just because we had a new part to the business, that brought in more revenue, but it sort of changed how we perceive our role in these projects. Because when you're both leading the marketing side and the rendering side, or the branding and the rendering, you are actually delivering a full marketing package for a project. And, we start with the brand strategy and the concept, often the naming, the visual identity. We were really shaping these projects. I mean, clients would come to us just with a set of drawings, and then 3 months later they had show suite, brochure, website, 3D renders, digital marketing campaign. We had made this a reality, and that was super cool.
Yeah. And do you have any advice for your younger selves when you were starting out? If you could go back and do it again?
I mean, I'd probably just say stick to your core business, do it well and keep doing that better. But all those distractions, all those other businesses were interesting and provided huge amounts of learning along the way too. So I don't want to regret those, but
No, I don't regret any of those. I think we learnt a lot, especially about our industry while doing those things, because they're always related. When we first started, off the plan wasn't really a thing that we ever talked about. We didn't really understand what developers were doing. The whole marketing process. We were just making pretty pictures for architects and developers. But 20 years now, we've got a very deep understanding of the whole building process, from inception to actually, because Dave and I still go to a lot of, once a project's been built, we always make it a point to go and see the finished building.
Yeah, that's fun.
Which is always an awesome...
It's very cool.
Awesome experience.
Yeah. And what do you see as the biggest risks and opportunities within the ArchViz space in the next sort of 2, 5, 10 years?
You can't not say AI. AI is potentially an existential risk to what we're doing. I don't know when, it could be a decade from now, it could be less, who knows. But, I mean, the moat that we currently have is specificity. You can't use images to sell off the plans that aren't 100% correct to the building. And at the moment, AI is just miles away from being able to do that. Yeah. Whereas, the 3D images that we're creating are using the architect's model, the architect's specifications, furniture models of, actual pieces of furniture out there. They're just true to the development. Yeah. Whereas all that AI would just be a rough, imitation of what it's going to be. And buying off the plans is an exercise in trust, and that would erode all trust. Yep. But, at some point, you'll be able to upload a 3D model into AI. You'll be able to upload specifications, upload the location. I don't know when it's going to happen, but we're all just going to have to become more and more, integrated at how we use AI to be able to maintain a saleable product.
Yeah. And do you have a vision for where you want the studio to go in the next 5 years?
That's a hard question now as well, because for years we just pursued growth in terms of the team, growth in terms of revenue. And that hasn't necessarily been a great way to run the studio, because, if you can't keep massive amounts of work coming in, then, you actually find yourself not 100% busy. I think we need to be a little bit more agile, a little bit more profit focused, and we also just need to be very aware of where technology's going at the moment.
Yeah. And overall, 21 years in business is a very long time. When this episode is released, it'll be the week of the business's 21st birthday. What has 21 years in business taught you?
Lots. I don't know if I could distill it down into many things, but running a small business, this is certainly how I find it, you have to be a jack of all trades. Over the years, especially prior to having you, we looked after every facet of the business. I can read a set of accounts. I fully understand, tax and all that sort of thing. We've had to deal with HR. There is so much to running a small business outside of the actual activity that you offer as a service. And, that takes years to sort of acquire all of that. Because obviously when you're a two-man band, you don't really have HR issues.
Yeah.
And, when your revenue is low and your expenses are low, accounts pretty simple and all the rest of it. So,
you did an MBA a while back. Did you find that helpful in managing a business?
I should say yes, because it took a really long time and,
Not cheap.
Not cheap. Yes and no. I don't think it compares to actually being in a business and learning on the job kind of thing. An MBA is very much focused on more kind of a corporate role than my role. There's less of a jack of all trades type situation. So, it was a great course. Such cool people that I was in there with, and I did it at a point in my life. It was basically during the global recession. So it was a cool way for me to feel like I was making some progress personally, even when the company wasn't really going forward. But yeah, I guess because it's small business, it's never been, I can't say it's not super useful. It's just hard to quantify how useful it's been.
Yeah. Lastly, what's the biggest piece of advice that you would give to someone starting out a business?
Now, just because of where everything is, I think you want to be really convinced that there is going to be a way for this to be a long-term success and for you to make money out of it. It is super important to be passionate in whatever field you go into, because you could end up 21 years later having worked in the same industry and the same office for that long. So you really want to love it. But just with where things are now, I think it's really important that you're thinking about where technology is going, and is that going to be a viable business, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time?
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to that. There's no doubt that it's a hard road, so you should always be prepared for it to be a hard, long journey.
We had the luxury of starting straight out of university as well. No family, no responsibilities. Didn't even particularly need a lot of money from a salary or anything like that. So,
do you think being young made it easier? You're a bit more naive and fearless?
Absolutely,
definitely. And if it fails, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
But if you've got kids and a mortgage and all the rest of it, starting a new business is a brave thing to do.
Yeah.
And because you do, I mean, we worked big hours in those early years. We had to because we were moonlighting. So, yeah, if you can't afford those hours, if you have to do a 9 till 5, it could be a rough start.
Yeah, but not impossible.
No.
No, nothing's impossible. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, David and Jamie, congratulations on 21 years in business. Thanks for coming into the podcast, and I'll see you back at the office.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks for having
Thanks.
us.
I just want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsor for this episode, 5 Digital. I have had the pleasure of working with 5 Digital closely for over 8 years now, and they are my go-to for all digital print jobs. They offer some really impressive embellishment options like digital foiling, metallic inks, and even fluoro colours, which always take the project right to that next level. And what's really stuck with me, though, is how supportive they've been from the beginning. When I was a young studio coordinator, still figuring out the print world, they took the time to explain the processes and the terminology so that I could feel confident running projects. And that kind of generosity and care made such a difference. They're consistently delivering high quality work, and they've even won gold at the Pride and Print Awards 5 years in a row, so you know you're in good hands. If you need any printing done, check them out at 5digital.co.nz. I will pop the link in the show notes for you. A huge thanks to the team at 5 Digital for supporting this episode.